All right, let's try this again. My 27th discussion, I'm talking with Jamie Behar from the legendary band Saetia and Off Minor. We're having some difficulties, technical difficulties, but we're trying to fix them. Get on here. Um, Also, he's been in Off Minor, Coercion, which is insane that to me that he played in Coercion. Old Ghost, The Year Is One, Guns Don't Run, Lytic. So little hiccup. I can't connect to him somehow. So we're gonna figure it out right now. Just waiting for him to jump back on. Of course, Frankie, it's got to be this way tonight, huh? Just waiting for him to jump back on now. I'm not sure what he was using before. I use my iPhone, so I don't know. I know he said he was jumping on his laptop. Um, I don't know if he was. Here we go. Let's see if this works now. I just sent him the thing. Hopefully he's clicking on. I still can't see him. Yeah, I can't see him. It's not working on my end. It just says waiting for him right now on my thing. It says unable to join. Like I said, Jamie, if you're there, try to send me a request. See if that works. All right, here we go. I got a request right here. See if this works. This fucking thing. He sent me a request. I accepted, and now Frankie, you see anything on there on your end? Jamie, hold on. Let me see here. Maybe if he jumps off and goes, hey,
Hey!
it worked.
All right.
Wow, that was crazy for a minute there.
So just to explain exactly what's going on, I'm actually using my old iPhone that I dug out of like a fucking drawer. So now it's like, and the screen is. I should be back. There we go.
All right, there we go. Nice. Sorry about that. I was like, we're gonna make it work. I know the technical difficulties were crazy.
I actually I switched to a Droid, and it's just fucked up life. It's like that's it. It's just I'm now like it's like the ultimate analogy for punk. Like I'm just fucking misfit and reject. So what's
Um,
going on?
I want to thank you for doing this, taking time out. I appreciate it on a Sunday. I know people are busy on Sundays working all week long and stuff like that, but I really do appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me for a little while. I've been doing it for a few months now, and it's been really fun. And I just want to say thank you again for doing this, and
No, my
hope
pleasure.
everything's good on your side. I know New York was crazy when COVID first hit and you're in the medical field, right?
Yeah, yeah. I actually I'm not like a frontline guy because I do OBGYN, so it's the critical care part of it's not really there. Like I'm not seeing sick people as much, but we still get a little bit, you know.
Yeah, still scary, and the
Yeah.
precautions. I'm sure you guys are taking insane precautions either way.
Oh yeah. The first couple of months were nuts because the shortage for the protective equipment was real, and it was pretty crazy. Like I still use the same mask that I've been using for the past couple of months because you never know when it's going to hit again. You know, next
Yeah,
thing you know, it's like, yeah, we're out. So
yeah. And New York was like closing down stuff just recently, right? Like restaurants again, and
oh yeah,
it's been an up and down, experience for New York to say the
oh
least.
yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely still a little bit weird because uh they've got, I don't know what it's like up there, but they got a whole thing now where it's like you can eat outside, but outside's got to be inside. So
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
like
well, they've been doing those weird igloos outside that you can
yeah,
with which I don't know like if that's so safe, but I mean, I haven't gone out to eat in since it hit. Honestly, I've had takeout and stuff like that to support businesses and stuff like that, but I haven't gone out to eat at all.
yeah. I've done it, but it kind of came and went, and now it's just with the weather, forget about it. Like who wants to do that to themselves?
Yeah, I know. All of a sudden, that cold came in the last couple of days. I'm sure
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
last night when I walked the dogs, it was like 3 degrees outside. So I'm not
Oof.
used to it. It's been a light winter so far, but yeah, it's pretty cold up in New Hampshire right now.
Yeah, it's been yeah. I used to love the cold, and now I'm getting old, and like no, I mean I don't know if this is just like par for the course for everybody after they get over 40, 45, but like my joints get stiff now. I'm like I'm actually getting legit old. Like so.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Every time I wake up and I put my feet on the ground, my feet are sore. It takes like me a couple minutes to get the blood flowing back into my legs and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah, it beats the alternative. So,
yeah, that's true. Usually
so
what I start out with is just like asking how you got into like punk and hardcore music. What drew you to it first? Like what were you listening to when you were a kid, and kind of how did it evolve into playing with Saetia? Well, actually, Coercion was that your first real band, or did you have a few before then?
so yeah, Coercion was the first time. It was wild because Coercion was the first band that actually played out in New York City. Um, it was the first time that it was kids that I didn't know from school. So, so I got into punk and hardcore. I think this is like the story. Like this is just like the old story. Like you're, you're 12, 13, maybe younger, and you start getting into music, like whatever you're into. Like I was into like Dungeons and Dragons and shit, and reading like Dragonlance books and stuff. And I got into like the Beatles and like the Doors and shit. And it's funny how like over like 1 or 2 years, like that takes you straight, if you're so inclined, it takes you straight to like Iron Maiden and like Judas Priest and stuff like that. I had a friend in the neighborhood because the school I went to, there were really just like two other punk kids, like kids who were like into any kind of music, and that was the kids I did the first band with. And it was Dave Fisher and Rachel Rosen. And Rachel Rosen ended up in Indecision and Most Precious Blood. But by the time I started playing with them, it went through the whole thing of like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and then like the Ramones. And then like I got a Ramones tape, and it's like, okay, well now I'm into punk. So
And what were like the I guess like more of the hardcore bands that you first like got drawn into after like the Ramones and maybe like Black Flag and stuff like that? What was kind of like the early, were you into like metalcore? Because in my background, it was kind of like the same thing as you. I was listening to like the Police and weird MTV stuff like Jay Giles and
yeah.
The Cure and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, I kind of hit heavy metal, and like you said, I was listening to Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Ozzy, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And then like I kind of grabbed onto Exodus and Slayer and Violence and Creator and stuff like that. And then it kind of turned into metalcore. Was that kind of your
So there was
avenue?
a weird jump actually. It was because I think I've told a lot of people this story because it was I must have been like 15 years old, and me and my friend Dave, we wanted to go out and just like do dumb shit, like so we one day we're looking at the Village Voice, and we're starting to go to shows by ourselves. Obviously we're not like kids that we got like a parent with us, and we had seen like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and shit like that. And then we look at the Village Voice, and there's this show called the Super Bowl of Hardcore, and we're like, hey, that sounds great. So we don't know any of the bands, but we're like, hey, it's what's it going to be? It's going to be loud music, so we got to check it out. We go. It was at the Ritz, but not like the old Ritz, not like the Webster Hall Ritz in New York. It was up on 54th Street or 52nd Street. I don't know. And just went in, and we're just like, what the fuck is going on? And that was the first time I saw a hardcore show. And I think we walked in at like during Sheer Terror or something. Like I still, it was like 1991, 1992. So it's like, it's all fuzzy, but like, it's like Sheer Terror and the Icemen and Vision and all these bands that like later. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I saw this stuff.
Yeah, I love those. Were you a youth crew kind of 88 kid after you saw that kind of stuff, or?
So it was weird because New York hardcore was one of those things where it's like the scene that was building up was really kind of you're going to know what I'm talking about. It was basically Back to Basics was like the label, because 25 to Life and like all those bands were like the big bands. So like if you went to CB's when they started doing matinees again, like that was a lot of the stuff. And these were like, they still did Super Bowls of hardcore for a couple of years before it turned into Black and Blue Bowl. And those were the big bands. And like Killing Time still played, and the Icemen are old and stuff like that. But we didn't really have a lot of that stuff, actually. And I didn't really get exposed to it for a couple of years. Like it just never was, it was never around because I didn't really know any straight edge kids until I started playing in Coercion. And then I was like, oh, this is what it's about. It's like, people are like, what, you don't listen to Chain of Strength? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I was like, so it's, it was a weird development because also one of the things about when I was getting into hardcore is we had no guidance. So it was just kind of like, and Murphy's Law and Gorilla Biscuits and the Cows on AMREP. And it was like, sure, it's music. We don't know. What do we know from this shit? So.
Yeah, it's the same here in Boston too. Murphy's Law would play, and like you said, Gorilla Biscuits would. Everybody played together, and when I was young, it was like I liked everything, and I wasn't straight edge per se until maybe Earth Crisis hit, and then I kind of got in that niche of like being straight edge. Maybe it was a little trend for me. I don't know, but it was I grabbed onto that for a while, and
Oh yeah.
and I know the new like bands after those bands kind of like shut down and Indecision and stuff like that. Millhouse, which Coercion did a split with, which I love. Millhouse, were you a big fan of Millhouse? Because like I love Millhouse.
Yeah. That was like a real like because there was all this like they were still kind of in that scene too, because like Wreckage was doing like a lot of Long Island stuff, like Neglect and Mind Over Matter and stuff like that. And then the Millhouse stuff was just like so noisy and weird. And I was like, this is like not that, you know, it's not like Neglect, which is all just like, you know, getting kicked in the face and shit. And like Millhouse was just like noisy and fucked up, and like Artie's lyrics were just like so it's like obnoxious. And I'm like, fuck, this is like
Yeah.
But
Obscenity in the Milk is by far one of my favorite LPs ever. Like I was talking to Mike from Endeavor, and it was Constructive Semantics and Obscenity in the Milk for me in '97 were untouchable to me in '97. Those two albums are incredible.
Well, when they had that big lineup change, because that was the whole thing with Millhouse, is they had like the EP lineup, the demo lineup, and then they kind of got like fused with a Decision, and all of it really made a lot of sense, because all of a sudden like they got so much heavier, like so much more intense. And I love Modern Problems and Solutions. I can't remember the title's like fucking
yeah.
But once they got that lineup, like the Obscenity in the Milk and the Split, the CR Split, which is also like that record is unbelievable.
Yeah, that record is sick.
But they really got like, there was like a heaviness to it that still wasn't like, it was more like kind of like a Dead Guy kind of heaviness, like a noisy, weird, like.
Yeah, it's like those two albums sounded nothing like anything else that you know, kind of in that genre. I hate like pegging people in genres and stuff like that, but those two bands then kind of sounded a little different than everybody else, especially Millhouse. Talking about Millhouse and Coercion, was Coercion a straight edge band? Because like it's dubbed a straight edge band. Was everybody straight edge in Coercion?
Yeah, that's a funny story. It's funny you should say that it was the thing to do, but it really was the thing to do. And it's like, it's kind of pathetic to look back on it, but it really was kind of like that's what you did. You know, it's like, that's what the kids were doing. And it's like, I also had personally like a bit of like a change, because I was in a relationship at the time that there was a lot of drinking going on. So to kind of like get out of that was to get away from that. And like, it's it was good timing in a way, because it was like a toxic relationship and like toxic behavior. And then I was like, well, there's this whole other thing that's going on that I've been listening to, like a lot of like Chokehold and Unbroken and stuff. So I was like, well, fuck it, might as well like yeah. I'm all in now. So
now what came out was you guys had the split with Millhouse, and then I know you did the Ourselves comp, which I love that live comp. The funny thing is, I was talking to Nathan from Coalesce, and I was at that show at the Space. He wasn't playing with Coalesce at the time; it was before he joined. But there's a place called the Space in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I went to that show that they recorded the Coalesce stuff on. And what I remember from Coercion, though, is like the split with Millhouse. You guys were on the Ourselves comp, and also All Quiet on the Western Front was another compilation that you were on. Now, was anything else released? Because that's the only thing I ever heard from Coercion.
That's it. Yeah, we had a demo, but all the demo stuff ended up on, I think I can't even remember actually. I think 2 of the songs ended up on All's Quiet, and then there's still 2 songs on a demo somewhere, which I don't even know if I've got the files for. I'd have to like dig around. That was a weird transition band too, because I feel like we didn't really know what we wanted to do. Like we got together and we're like a bunch of straight edge kids from like Jersey and Long Island, because their singer was from Jersey, and our drummer was in Loyal to None, and our bassist was in Trip Feast. You know, it was Scott and Brian, so not in that order. And we kind of everybody wanted to get out of that scene. I thought that was the impression. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but I felt like there was a lot of stuff that we wanted to do that was more like Drop Dead or like stuff like that. It didn't really translate though, but we definitely were kind of like trying to do more of like almost like a crusty thing, but it really didn't. I don't know if it ever actually worked out that way.
Yeah, and how did that kind of end? And then was Saetia right after that?
Yeah, it was end to end, because what happened was our singer got real. She was in school the whole time, but like at some point she was at Cooper, which is like a really fucking intense school. And I think like the first semester she was like, oh yeah, I could like balance my life. And I think the second semester she's like, yeah, no, this is not working out anymore. Like I think that the time that we existed was like from like halfway through her first semester until like halfway through her second, really. And then like by then she was like, fuck, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So it really just kind of petered out. And then like at the same time I was playing with Billy from Saetia, and we were trying to figure out like what we were going to do, because we actually had a bunch of bands that were like little one-offs, like, oh, we had to practice and we wanted to sound like Cornerstone, like shit like that.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because back then, in the mid '90s, there wasn't a lot of female fronted like hardcore bands and punk bands. Like really, I mean, you see it a lot more now, but back then it was surprising to actually see. Do you kind of agree on that? Because I didn't really see too many bands that had girls in them back in the day.
It's funny because like one of the frames of reference that I had going into it, because I met Melanie originally because she was a pen pal, like a legit, like actual, like pen and ink pen pal through Maximum Rock and Roll with the girl that I was dating in high school, which was the toxic relationship that pushed me into straight edge. And then we were all kind of like, I deliberately was looking to have a woman in the band because more than anything else, like one of the big frames of reference that Scott and I were talking about was anti-schism. We were both like crazy about anti-schism at the time. So we're just like, all right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do like that kind of hardcore. It's going to be more like crusty. And it didn't really work out, but it was just like.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and Melanie really kind of came out of like that Jersey scene that was like Endeavor and like, I'm trying to think of like the other biggies, like the early '90s New Brunswick kind of scene, which I'm drawing a blank on, like in Still, which was pre You and I and stuff like that. Like she knew all those guys and stuff like that. So
yeah. So when you and Billy got together, you guys just tried to work on bands. How did Saetia kind of work in? Like, how did you decide that, okay, we're gonna, do this band Saetia? How did that work out? How did you guys start?
So it was we would go to WNYU, which was the NYU radio station, and Dave and Rachel, who were in Tapeworm, which was my first band, we all went from high school and we all went to NYU. So, and they were the DJs. So me and Billy and like a rotating cast of like kids who went to school, because there was actually like a pretty decent number of kids at the school at the time, like this like 94 to like whatever 98 were like hardcore kids. It was just not like thousands, but like you go around, you're in a class and it's like, oh, I see that kid's wearing a Avail shirt, so it's like, so there would always be kids popping by the radio station, and Billy became like one of the regulars, and I was always a regular cussing. I knew Dave and Rachel. And then one day Billy and I were just like bullshitting about like just everything, just like it's been a couple of weeks, and it's like he's bringing in like Slap a Ham records, and I'm bringing in like Bloodlink records and stuff like that. And we're like, we should do something, and he had been playing drums in a band called Surrounded, and they had broken up because they were like a high school band too.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm just like, yeah, fuck it, why not? I got some time. I'm always looking to do stuff. And he didn't want to play drums; he wanted to sing. So we just started asking around, like finding different people. And it was like, I think the first person we got in was actually Alex, the original bassist. And that was when we were like, all right, straight edge hardcore. We're gonna do like that was his thing. Like he loved that stuff. Like every time I ever saw him, he had like a Today shirt on, like a Chain of Strength shirt on. He was like, that was his thing. And we tried that, and it was just like miserable shit. Just like derivative crap. And it was like, and then we tried like to do some like kind of like convergy, sort of like a little bit more. We probably thought it was more Rorschach-y kind of stuff. I was like, it's a little too.
Yeah.
And then Alex and I were talking one day, and he actually went to school with, I don't know, all the guys, but like some of the guys in Anasarca. And that's how he was like, oh, yeah, we should do something that sounds like Anasarca. And I was like, sure, I love that record. So that was really like the frame of reference, actually. It really was pretty deliberate, like, let us copy this band called Anasarca. We're going to start off, and we'll see where it goes.
And you guys, like, when the lineup got solidified, it was what, 97 when you guys first put out that like EP cassette type thing? Was that in 97 when you kind of...
I think so. We were already kind of getting things together, I think, in like late 96, because I have like this weird, it's like 25, 26 years ago. I have this memory because I went to California with some friends on like a week trip during like winter break. And I remember one point we had a mutual friend, Billy, and this kid, Alex. And Alex was like, oh, I'm talking to Billy. You want to talk to him? And I was like, all right, when I get back, we're going to do the band. So it must have been like 96 going to 97. And then by like 97, like we really got it together.
And when did Adam and everybody else kind of join? Was that the same time, or were you guys still juggling members like back then, or?
I mean, it really came together. Like, this is the order. It's one of those things where it's like history is written by, history is written by people who remember it. So
yeah,
I like the way I remember it was Billy and I were trying to do it for a long time, like a couple of months, 6 months, 8 months, trying to figure out how to do it. We got Alex because when you see the kid in the Youth of Today shirt, you're like, okay, this guy's got to be in the band. And Greg was the next one because Greg was in the Joy Division shirt. We're like, okay, fuck it, why not? We'll take him too. And we knew he played drums because he was actually at Interpol at the time, which is the crazy thing.
Yeah.
He had been doing Interpol since he started school in like 94. Like, he met up with those kids really early, and they were originally a 3-piece. Greg and I can't remember the other 2 guys' names, Dan and Carlos. So that's a whole other podcast, but on the whole other Instagram live. And then when we got together the first time, Billy was like, oh, I'm going to get this guy who I know from, basically my neighborhood. Like, they grew up in Queens. They grew up in Whitestone together. And that's how we met Adam. And just, I had Becoming the Truth kind of written, which realistically might have been a Coercion song, which would have been weird because it's like a posse kind of like youth crew jump song. But yeah, and that was kind of the first practice.
Does it surprise you how big Saetia got after you guys had broken up? Because like I said, when I saw you guys, I asked you this through DM a while ago that if you remember the Tin Can Full of Dreams Fest in Worcester in '98, and you said that you didn't remember playing it, but me and Pete were talking about it last week, and we solidified that it definitely happened, because I remember distinctly watching you guys play. Is it more surprising, I guess what my question is, that once you guys disbanded, how big Saetia got, and like basically you guys are like the godfathers of screamo, if you want to call it that. Is it surprising that is blew up so fast after?
It was weird because the interval was just so short. It was wild because it's like I felt like we broke up in '99. By like 2001, it was just like, where the fuck were you people? Like, we literally toured 3 years ago, and we were playing in like basements to like 10 people, and it's like all of a sudden, it had a lot to do with level playing because Greg and Steve and Billy to some extent, and Matt, really. I mean, it was really Greg, Steve, and Matt for a long time. I think they did a fantastic job. Like, that label just became like, they really identified like the bands to do. So like Usurp Synapse and Hassani Sabah and Jerome's Dream and Neil Perry, and it's just like these records were massive. Like, it's like everywhere you went, they really got like. And the Saetia discography came out, and all of a sudden, like, people like, I mean, I don't even know how many CDs there were, but It's like it was everywhere. So
Yeah. When I saw you, somebody was like, "Oh, have you ever seen Saetia?" I was like, "No," because I mean, it was kind of like my first time in '98. Like I said, I came from like a metalcore background, listening to Converge and Cave In and Die My Will and just heavy, Dead Eyes Under, stuff like that. And me and my buddy Brian had went to the show, and I never had really seen anything besides like on the light, like not lighter side, but like not as heavy metal and like moshing, besides like Piebald and stuff like that. So when a kid was like, "Oh, have you ever seen Saetia?" I was like, "No," and he's like, "You got to watch this set." And as soon as I saw the set, I was blown away. And Jerome's Dream played like within the either before you or right after you at States of Seed, and Portrait played. Like you guys were all like in a row, and I was fucking blown away like seeing that shit. And it changed my life. And I talked to Pete. I was like, literally, I went from liking that stuff, which I still like that stuff too, but then it kind of just shifted me in a different direction. And I started loving listening to that style of underground music. And like I said, I don't know if you remember playing that show, but it meant a lot to me. And I'm grateful that I got to see Saetia at least once before you guys hung it up.
Because I remember the Tin Can Fests more for Off Minor, because I know Off Minor played like at least twice, possibly 3 times. Because like every time Pete asked, we're like, yeah, of course. Like, he's a great guy, he's a great friend. And Sinaloa, obviously, like once they started, like we played a bunch of shows together with Sinaloa, because that was just just our guys. So
yeah. I in the show that you guys played, I think the one I'm talking about, the Tin Can Fest, I think like Chispa and Enfold from Germany were like one of the last bands to play like on that night, and that shit blew me away too. I was blown away by that stuff too.
Funny story. So Chispa, and the reason why I thought I was like, did we play? Cause like I lent my shit to Chispa and Enfold for their tour. They took all my shit. Yeah, it's one of those things when I think about it, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? So Scott Biden, if I can mention his name, I feel Scott Biden's a complicated figure for like the people who know who Scott Biden is. He did Bloodlink Records, which for a while was like fucking incredible. Like they put out Chokehold, they put out Groundwork, he put out, and he's a character, and he's definitely a conversation unto itself. But Scott calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I booked this tour for these 2 German bands, and they need equipment. I was hoping I could borrow all your equipment." And I had like I had a backline. I had like bass shit, and guitar shit, and I was like, "Yeah, I guess." I was like, "Who are they?" And he told me the names, and I was like, "I think I've heard of Enful," but then he told me who was in. He didn't tell me their. I mean, if he told me the names, I'd be like, I don't fucking know who these people are. But just as ex-members of Lebensreform and Loxeran, who are like 2 massive for me. Like I love that shit. So I was like, well, fuck, it's ex-members of Lebensreform. I got to give them my shit. So I'm like the one person in the United States who would actually say those words out loud. And I'm like, and when I met them, they're like, you know who we are? Like people in Germany don't know who we are. I'm like, yeah, I was crazy about all that Percoro shit. So they had all my stuff, and that's why I was like, I don't think we played because I didn't have any equipment. Like all my shit was in a van that like Scott Biden was just kind of like, "Peace, I got your shit now.
Yeah,
you might get it back."
I remember like one of I don't know if it was like their manager or maybe like somebody that went with him, but he had like a tiger head on his head, and he was running around with no shirt on in the crowd at that show.
That sounds like Scott Biden.
Yeah, it was very strange, but an eye opener for sure. It was a wild show, and I wish, me and Pete were saying, if anybody has footage of that fest, it's got to come out, because that fest was amazing, and I'd love to see even pictures of that fest. That's what sucks. I mean, I wish I had taken my camera to all the shows I went to. I didn't take my camera to that either, of course. But at least I did get the Tin Can Fest with Off Minor, the last one that Pete did, which was really good. The funny thing is, like, I was watching that video. I posted a couple in. There's a couple tweakers that it looked like kind of were bugging the shit out of you. And it looks like you gave him a little bump, and you were like screaming in his ear, like in that last video, which I love. I think it's funny as hell.
Well, it was, yeah, Off Minor was one of those things where, like, every now and then, like, I don't know. Like, definitely had a couple of things. You know, I tried not to be as, like, confrontational, but, like, definitely had a couple of people get a little too close sometimes. It's like, I don't want to lose my teeth to this fucking microphone.
Yeah, exactly. With going back to Saetia, how much did you guys tour, and did you tour with like a sister band back then? And what was like your favorite show back then playing with Saetia?
So we we were supposed to tour. The years get all screwy for me. So I feel like this is one of those things where it's like somebody with like more brain cells has got to like if Billy or Adam, Greg, you know, if one of those guys, Colin, could just like come in and be like, hey, by the way, it was 98. I think it was 98, but we were supposed to tour the States, and we had a whole thing. The whole story is like, is just so ridiculous. We booked the tour without a van. And then like a week in advance, we're like, van, yeah, fuck, we should get one of those. And it was just like trying to rent it, then looking at the price, and we're like, can't do it. Try to buy it. The van's condemned. You know, it's like the van's like got holes in it and like carbon monoxide's like coming up through the floor. The short version is like, then the other van we tried to get was from that band Franklin, and then he backed out at the last minute. They're just like, we're not ready to let go yet. So
Yeah,
that tour canceled. Whole tour canceled. And the only thing I remember from that tour was that we were supposed to play with Still Life in California, and I was like, fuck, I never got to see Still Life. So
yeah,
and that would have been like a real. And then the next summer we finally toured, and that tour was funny because we one of the first shows was in Indianapolis, and this band Usurp Synapse, we played with them, and I guess we figured this out a couple of weeks in advance, but they had called all the venues and put themselves on the shows. So we ended up touring with them. We were not intending on touring with them. We had no idea who the fuck they were.
yeah.
But they had actually gone, which if you know those guys, makes total sense. It was like, when I think about the drummer, Travis, I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that Travis would do. He was just like, oh yeah, we're going to tour with Station. We're just going to call all the venues and tell them we're touring. And like, that's touring, right?
And it's a great band to jump, have them jump on with. I mean, Usurp, like, incredible. Like, live, too, is always a fun time.
Oh, yeah. No, that was the funny thing, is we had no idea who the fuck they were. And then we played the first show, and we're like, holy shit, this is like, and they're a band that I think people don't realize how much of an impact they had, because when I listened to a lot of the stuff that I listened to in like the mid first decade of the 21st century, like Louis Cypher, and like you obviously hear a lot of Orchid. You know, Orchid just like really changed shit. But there's a lot of Usurp in a lot of those bands too. Like a lot of like what John did. Like he was the guitarist who wrote, to my knowledge, wrote all the stuff.
Yeah.
Like really high up on the neck. Like that was really very Usurp Synapse. So.
Yeah, definitely. They would. Did you? I posted a video from this fest in New Bedford, Mass, called Fuck Fest, and they actually somehow had a cheerleader in a cheerleader suit standing on one of their amps, like dancing around for their whole set. I don't know if you've seen that, but
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were definitely an experience.
Yeah, they were good. I mean, I don't know. You know, again, like I have very fond memories of those guys. So
yeah. So what was your favorite show that Saetia played that you can remember?
Yeah, that's the asterisk there that I can remember. So, I think really It would probably be 400 Years, Sleepy Time Trio at ABC No Rio. More because that was just like, I mean, those two bands were massive. And Sleepy Time, just like, I thought the floor was going to collapse. It was just insane.
Yeah. Oh, it's a sick show. I always talk about not seeing 400 Years. They're one of the bands that I wish I saw. I had a couple opportunities. I just like, I don't know. It's something didn't happen, and I'm kicking myself in the ass for not going to see them because I'm a huge 400 Years fan.
Oh yeah, they were.
Them and Race Band, and I was talking to Pete about it too. I didn't get to see Race Band either, so but I've seen pretty much everybody else besides those two bands. Red Scare was another one. I wish I saw Red Scare. So when Saetia ended, how did Off Minor kind of like get into the fold?
So it was funny because I've told this story 1,000 times too. I feel like it was so trying to be tone neutral about it. It's like because we're all friends now, and I feel like Saetia actually did break up under like pretty good circumstances, all things considered. But the tour was tough. The tour was really kind of like, I feel like, I mean, Captain Jazz broke up on tour. It's like, that's like, you're all friends until you're all living in a fucking van for a month. And then it's like, all of a sudden shit's a little bit more intense. Mm-hmm. So we got back, and Colin, the lineage goes that Alex was the original bassist, and then Alex quit, and then Colin became the bassist. And then Adam quit, and then Colin became the guitarist, and Steve became the bassist, and then Colin quit, and then Steve got promoted to guitar, and Matt Smith came in and became our bassist. So Matt and Steve and I were practicing a lot, just the three of us, because we were the string section, so we were like trying to figure out, who's going to play what, how do we do this. There were differing skill levels, because honestly, Steve's a fantastic musician, like across the board. But Steve was always a drummer. And for those, I'm assuming everybody knows all these things that I'm talking about, but Steve was the drummer in Off Minor. So he was like a real drummer. But when we needed a bassist, we're like, Steve? So Steve became our bassist. And then when Colin quit, we're like, you're up, dude. Get it. You got promoted. So he's like, I don't really play guitar. Like we said, you're fucking promoted. So Steve's now playing guitar, and Matt's playing bass, and I'm playing guitar, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. And a lot of the time when we're practicing in my parents' basement, which was the style of the times, Steve would play drums just to kind of like give that kind of structure, because he's a better drummer anyway than he was a guitarist. So it's like, oh, he knows how to play a guitar part. Let's get Matt caught up on the bass part. And we were doing this three-piece, which was Matt on bass, me on guitar, and Steve on drums. And then when we kind of got back together with Saetia, it was like the thrill was gone. Like it was just kind of like after, it feels like a long time when you're doing it. And you're in a band, you're like 3 years, Jesus Christ. It's like I'm sick of these fucking guys. And I feel like tour was rough, and I feel like, again, I can't put words in anyone's mouth, but I feel like Billy had kind of like started getting into more stuff. And like was ready to kind of like, he wanted to do, I mean, he's a DJ now. He was starting getting into DJing and stuff like that. And I think that Greg was just kind of like, again, can't put words in his mouth, but I feel like Greg was kind of over music. Like he was doing the label, and that was great, but I feel like he was in a place where he just was not into like playing, like he was getting married, and like, I don't know. It's just like, so the next thing you know, we're just kind of like not gelling anymore. But like the three of us were gelling just fine. So we had a meeting. We're like, hey, it doesn't seem like anyone's into it. Why don't we call it quits? And then after we played our last show, like literally, Matt and Steve and I were like, practice, So, and that was it. It really just kind of like slipped right into it, because we were even working on new stuff that became Off Minor stuff. So
yeah, and Matt, and then how soon after did Matt leave to go to Hot Cross and Kevin come in?
So Matt was doing Hot Cross for a while. He was doing the two bands at the same time, and there was no problems. We had a weird tour. Off Miner's first tour was like a week, and just like, yeah, we came back. We actually broke up for a month or two, cause I mean, to be honest, like I think a lot of it was me. I feel like if Matt and Steve are watching this, they're like, yeah, it was you. Cause I definitely got a little nutty on tour sometimes, just like stir crazy and like personal space. I was like, I can't be around these motherfuckers anymore. Like I'm losing my mind. So we broke up for like a month, and then we got back together. But then that was also kind of like, and then eventually that was just kind of like, look, I just want to focus on Hot Cross. And Matt and Greg at the time were like living together and like doing level playing together. And I was like, okay, well that makes sense. And Kevin and Steve are brothers, and Kevin played bass in a bunch of bands, and Steve did. And God Awful was one, and then Life Detecting Coffins, which was not with Steve, but there's like a weird relationship there too, as far as like the bands, because Life Detecting Coffins was three guys, and if you switch out the guitarist, that becomes off minor.
Mm.
And then God Awful was three guys, and if you switch out the drummer, that becomes Life Detecting Coffins. So it's like little switches, like little toggle switches, where it's like that's off minor, that's Life Detecting Coffins. So
and off minor started like putting out stuff in 2000, right? It wasn't too far after Saetia, like what was it? The last thing that Saetia put out was what, 99, or was it even? And then you guys did that demo, off miner's demo in 2000, I think, and then what I can remember is the what was it? I Am the Resurrection split. I think that was the first thing that I heard, and that album, I love. I loved both sides of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I wish that band stayed together a little longer. But it's so heavy, and both things were so. And the funny thing about Off Minor is, I knew you were in Off Minor, and I didn't know it was a three-piece. It sounded so full. It literally sounded so full. And then when I saw you guys, I was like, holy shit, this band is a three-piece? I was like, God damn, this music is like, I literally thought there was 5 people in the band.
That that's my favorite thing I ever heard. I heard it, not to like pat myself on the back, but we heard that a lot, and then I always got a kick out of that, because I was like, I thought you guys were a 5-piece. I thought you guys were a 6-piece. I'm like, 6-piece? Like, what do you think is going on here? So I thought you guys had 2 singers, 2 guitarists, a drummer, and a bassist. And I'm like, where are you getting this shit? Look at the liner notes, man. You got the record.
Yeah, literally. When I first heard it, I thought you guys were a 5-piece, and then I was blown away when I bought the record and saw that you guys. And then I saw you guys live a bunch of times, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Just the sound alone is really full. You know what I mean? And I love that Steve was doing like a little background vocals too in that. It just like I said, it's some of my favorite music back then. I still listen to it all the time, and you guys were together for quite a while, right? Wasn't it? It was a good 8 years, wasn't it?
It was it was 9, almost on the dot. Because we started, I think our first practice was October of 2000 or 99. Yeah, it would have been, our first practice was in October 99. And then our last show was October of 2008.
And the Some Blood was the last thing you guys put out, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Which is a phenomenal album too. and on top of that, you guys toured everywhere. You guys toured Europe. Were you in South America too, or?
No, that was actually right at the end. We were getting a lot of emails, or maybe just enough emails from Chile, and they were like, "There's a lot going on here. Like, you should come down." And we were like, "Fuck, maybe."
Yeah. Did you guys ever hit Australia?
Oh yeah, no, Australia was like our second home. Yeah, we were nuts about Australia. It was funny because we toured Australia before we went to Europe. We got an invite from these 2 guys, Tom Scott and Joel Anderson. And Joel and Tom were like booking shows, and Tom worked in a record store. I think he still does, and he did a label called Deplorable. And this dude Damien, who lived so they were in Sydney, and this dude Damien, whose name I can't remember, he had a label called Building that was up in Brisbane, and they're like, the three of us will like set up all the shows and we'll put out the records, which was like the big thing. They'll put it out on CD,
Yeah.
and you should come over. And we're like, well, shit, okay, we'll figure it out.
And like you said with touring, it was kind of not the greatest thing for Saetia, but how was all those tours that you did with Off Minor? Were you getting used to touring after, since you guys did so much touring and went all over the place and stuff like that? Did it become easier for you? Obviously it did, because you guys were together for quite a long time.
Yeah, I feel like those guys handled me as well as they can. It was like shit didn't change for me personally. Like I know that it's funny. You grow up and you get old, kind of like at weird points in your life. And I feel like I really grew up. I really grew up a lot after Off Minor broke up, and I was kind of like, fuck, I was really intolerable. Like I was an insufferable person to be around back then, cuz I don't know. It's just there was a lot of like I feel like a lot of bands get into like a ball breaking system and like a ball breaking hierarchy, and then since Off Minor was a three-piece, there was a lot of like it worked out really well because Steve and Kevin, obviously they're brothers. They grew up
Yeah.
together, and I've been friends with Steve since like college, and we're friends now, but like we were super close. Like he lived with me and my parents for like 3 months or something after he graduated. Like, you graduate and you're like, well, fuck, what am I gonna do? I gotta get a job. I gotta live somewhere. It's like I was like, live with me, sleep in the room next to my room. It's cool. My parents love you. So, but it just took its toll. It's just like for me, like I get to a point where there's like a hump on tour where it's like I just got to get past that, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm good now. But like a week, 10 days into the tour, I start to get a little twitchy, squirrely, kind of like
Yeah.
I'm really doing this now, huh? Like this is my life now. So
And back then too was like Level Plane and Robotic Empire were so
oh yeah,
huge. Like those two labels, pretty much like you said, had the who's who of that genre of bands. Those two labels were synonymous with like incredible bands back then. And I wish Level Plane didn't go away. But like I said, there was like a lull after a while, and I kind of started getting into hip hop a lot, and then I got sucked back in maybe 5 years ago because I feel like there's a resurgence of heavy music again, and like the guy that runs Zegama Beach, he's like the new Level Plane. Like the
oh
shit
yeah,
he puts out is bananas,
gold
and
nonstop.
like you guys, Lytic did that 4 band release, which is amazing. Uh,
Oh yeah,
so I feel like there's like a resurgence of that community again, and do you agree or?
yeah. That's the thing. It's funny because I never stopped playing music, but like I definitely changed, did different things. And Lytic was the first thing that I did in a long time that was like screamo, emo, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of seen it coming back into being a thing because it also I felt like kind of went away for a while. Like I kind of like stopped paying attention after Off Minor broke up because I was like, there's stuff going on, but I don't really have the time to do it. I was in school, I was in training for like but yeah, Zach Beach had been doing it for a while. Like Dave's been doing it for easily. I mean, easily 10 years.
Yeah.
And another one to mention is Middleman. Middleman puts
Yeah.
out
Middleman's doing great things too.
yeah,
Definitely.
Sean. So there's a lot, and it comes in waves, like anything else.
And when Off Minor ended, you were playing bass in a couple bands, right?
Yeah, so there was an overlap between Off Minor and this band called Old Ghost that we we played a bit. We didn't really. Everybody was already like kind of retirement punk by then, kind of like it was. But we definitely we played out and we put out an LP and two 7 inches or I don't know if the second one came out actually. I think it did. I don't know. That was great. That was a really good time. That's one of those things where when I talk about bands I did, it was great to kind of like not. I'm like a closet bassist. Like I always did. Like the band Lytic and Pembroke are the two bands I'm doing now, really. And like I
Yeah.
play bass in Pembroke, and it's like it's much more fun for me. It's lot less stressful, and like I
You
don't know.
did you play bass in The Year Is One too?
Yeah, that was like it was a good time, but it was like really short. I think like it was like a little over a year that we did it.
Yeah.
It played. Yeah, it was me and Jeff Garlock from Orchid,
Oh yeah.
and our friend Jimmy and our friend DJ playing drums, and it just kind of like it. We played a bunch of shows. We had a demo that I don't know if it ever really it was just like CDRs, and then it's kind of fizzled. It's just kind of like these things just kind of fizzle.
Yeah. And so it didn't last that long, huh?
It was probably a little over a year.
A year. And
It's one
then
of
what?
those things. Yeah.
And what was Guns Don't Run? How did that kind of?
Oh yeah, I was. So that's like an origin story to itself, which probably nobody gives a fuck about. So the fun thing about Guns was that it was literally dudes that I went to a bar with to watch soccer. So it was like it was me and my friend Ralph, Justin, and my friend Austin, and we all we just like regulars at this bar watching Arsenal, the British, this English soccer team, and like every week. And then one day we're just like, oh, we should do a band. We should do an Oi band, So next thing you know, I was playing drums originally, and that was bad. That was just terrible. So we just, and then I'll never forget. We were all out, and we're watching Greece play Japan in the World Cup at this German bar. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this drum shit. Let's get DJ, who was in The Years One, to play drums for us. And then we had like a glorious golden age of like actually people playing the instrument they're supposed to be playing. And we got a record, and it just also fizzled.
Yeah. Now, can you hear that record anywhere? Like, is it on Bandcamp or Spotify or anything like that?
I think it's on Bandcamp. It came out on a label called oh god, I'm already forgetting it. Media Control. It's out there. It's like you got to do a search for it. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at a box of 7 of them right over there. So I'm expecting a flurry of orders now.
So
Crowd control.
how did you get sucked back into like the heaviness of Lytic and stuff like that? Because I mean, it's brutal too. And were you kind of not wanting to do the heavy stuff, and then you kind of got a fever for it afterwards, and you were like, I need to play heavy music again?
So
like real heavy music.
I had kind of been like tinkering around with stuff and nowhere to go with it. It's just especially with the on the bass, which is always how I wrote. And it was really I know Frankie's watching this, so I keep making the Giuliani face because I'm looking down at the phone. So I'm like, but I ran into Frankie and our original guitarist, DJ, at an Infest show, and we just ended up hanging out and having like this crazy rage room at night where we're like, yeah, we got to do a band. Let's like we're all into the same stuff, and like let's do it. So, and I had a couple of things that had been on the back burner for like years, like things that had been off minor songs that had been kind of like retrofitted or reconfigured, I guess is a better way to describe it, into like Year Is One songs that never got used. So then I was like, well, fuck it, let's try this out. And that was like the first like 4 or 5 songs we wrote were like things that I'd kind of been sitting on. So
Yeah. And was Frankie was in the band Mayans? Is that what the band that he played in?
yeah, he was in Mayans, and he was in a band called Desu with and he was also in a band called Salo. And Mayans and Desu were both kind of more of like the screamo thing, and Salo was more of like a black metal kind of thing.
Yeah, Frankie's a great guy. Like
Oh,
just
yeah.
talking through him, like through Instagram and stuff like that. And the shirts that he posts, I'm like, I'm so
Yeah.
jealous. Like, and the flyers, between your flyers and his shirts, I'm like, Jesus. I like,
Yeah.
you guys blow my mind away, especially the Public Enemy jacket that he had just posted. I was like, oh my
Oh,
God.
now he's I mean, he's a little obsessive, Frankie, but he's got like a incredible breadth of music interest, which is really the thing we got into, like how we really bonded, because it was like, yeah, we're talking about like, Yaga and like, La Quiete and stuff like that. But like at the same time, like those guys are also into like, everything. It's like, and you can't say like there's no starting point, because it's literally everything. Like you can like sit down in the room with those guys, and that's just like jazz, and like he's also an encyclopedia, and he loves like all the AMREP stuff and like touch and go and sub pop, and like he's like the most. I mean, I've as far as like drummers go, like I've been blessed to play with like some really incredible people. As far as like Steve and DJ and Frankie. But Frankie's like, the versatility always blows me away, because I'm just like, Frankie, again, he's fucking watching this, but he can play anything. Like it's wild just to be like, hey, Frankie, reggae. And he's like, reggae, got it.
Yeah.
It's like, Frankie, jazz. Yeah, he's got it. And he also plays like 5 instruments. He's like, he can play guitar and bass, and then he plays like horns. He's got like trumpet and French horn, shit like, yeah, he's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that must be a good person to be in a band with. That's for sure. If like, and the influences alone with you and him, and like I said, he put a Sade shirt out, and then he puts out a CR shirt or something like that. You're just which I love, because I'm the same way. I love all kinds of different music too. I can't just always listen to heavy music. I'm a huge hip hop guy. I still love, I'm a big Joe Jackson fan. Anything Joe Jackson's done, I love Joe Jackson. Elvis Costello is another one that like I can't get enough of. So I think it's like refreshing when people have such a huge array of music that they like. It just makes the music that much better when they're playing heavy music.
Well, it's one of the things, is that it's, at the end of the day, like if it's good, I just don't like what's on the radio. Like I just never really do, really, for the most part, especially recently. But that's not always true, because like when I was growing up, I loved what was on the radio, because it was like the Police and like Joe Jackson and shit like that, like a lot of the power pop, and it was like good pop, and like that we grew up, because I know we're like the same age, more or less. Like we grew up in like the glory days of hip hop. So like you turn on the radio and like De La Soul's playing, and it's like, well, shit, it's it's like, it was really, maybe we didn't appreciate it at the time, but there was just like so much good stuff going on, and people like to talk shit about like the late '80s, early '90s, but like there really was a lot of good stuff as far as like, good hip hop and decent rock and roll. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm literally stuck in the '90s. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Although I love the '80s too, but I mean, I'm literally stuck in the '90s with everything, heavy music and hip hop. In general, I love all that stuff. I started going to hip hop shows when I was real young, and same thing with hardcore. My first show was my mom cemented this the other day. I said '84, but it was '83 when I was 11 years old. I saw SSD and DYS and Angry Samoans at the channel, which I thought it was the Gallery East. And my buddy that took me there's like, dude, it wasn't the Gallery East. It was at the channel. And I'm like, I don't know. It's been so long. My brain is like, I can't grasp a lot of things. But I've been going to shows for a long, long time. And so it's been a wild ride. And I'm dying for live shows too.
Oh yeah. God, that's going to be, it's funny. It's like you take it for granted then. And then it's gone and you're like, well, fuck.
Yeah, definitely. Now, does Lytic have songs that you guys are sitting on right now that are going to come out soon, or?
So we got another guy to be in the band, Adam, and it was like perfect timing. Like we had been playing with him for maybe like 6 months, and things were going great. We were like really gelling, and then COVID happened, and Adam's partner's family lives in Maine, and he's like, look, New York's a little nuts right now. Like, I mean, we're gonna get out, so he's up in Maine right now, and we probably had like 5 or 6 songs like that were at least musically done that just hopefully we'll remember how to play them. Because I mean, right now Frankie and I are focusing on Pembroke because everybody's in New York and we're on like a good rhythm of practicing every week, and it's coming along. You know, it's
And
actually
tell everybody about Pembroke. Like, what kind of music is it? What do you guys like got going on with that?
so Pembroke is me and Frankie, obviously. Our buddy Ron sings. He was the singer for Guns Don't Run, and in a crazy twist of fate, John Biviano from Supertouch is our guitarist. Which every time I say it out loud, I'm just like, he's a guy who we met through soccer, and years ago, I met him for the first time, like probably like 12 years ago, maybe not that, I don't know. And like over time, we just like became friends with him. And one day we're like, hey, we should just like get together and play. You know, Supertouch comes and goes, and he's been doing bands, you know, the whole time. And yeah, and we really like kind of clicked into place. It's a weird sound because it's sort of it. I don't know. I like to think that we're kind of doing something that sounds like it's cohesive. Like it's still, you know, it's like, oh, of course. Well, that's the style. It's like this. It's consistent from song to song, but the style's still really eclectic. Cause like, got 30-second songs, the blast parts, and then we got a song that sounds like Soul Side, you know, which is what we got. Pembroke's actually a Soul Side song, so it's like a lot of like old DC, like mid to like late '80s DC hardcore influence, like all of Scream, like from Still Screaming, like all the way through, and like you know, obviously like Gray Matter and Embrace and Rites of Spring and stuff like that. But then with like a lot of like modern and like New York hardcore kind of bits, you know, so.
Yeah, and now is that out anywhere? Like I said, Bandcamp or where somebody can listen to that?
So we're going to record an LP in a month, like almost through the day. Like 1 month from now, we will be coming home from our first session, recording the LP. So we have a song that we recorded that's going to be on a comp through Sunken Temple Records with Edgar and Still Suit and Kaiju Daisenso and all these bands that are like kind of it's funny because when I looked at the names, I was like, wow, this is like everybody that I knew in the 90s,
Yeah.
but like the bands they're doing now. So it's like Kaiju is like Matt from the States of Seeds singing, and like Edgar was like a mid 90s screamo band from Long Island that like they're doing it again, and like Still Suit were like massive for me when I was a kid. And oh god, there's like bands that's like ex-members of CR and Kill Your Idols, and like it's dudes I've known forever, and I'm just like, oh fuck, this is awesome. We're like getting the old band back together, getting the old crew back together. So
when is that coming out?
I have no idea.
Still Suit. It was I was lucky enough to see them once. They played. I think they opened up a show for the when Dead Guy and Bloodlet did that tour after
nice.
Tim left. Still Suit. Well, I think it was Still Suit, 10-Yard Fight, Bloodlet, and Dead Guy that played that show. But I was lucky enough to see Still Suit once, you know, because I love the what was it, the 4-song EP or something like that.
So they had a double 7-inch called Green Spock Ears.
That's what it was.
Which I think is like 6 songs.
Yeah,
I think it's 6 songs. I think they had like 1 on each side, but like 2 on like, cause they were a huge band for me back in the day, cause they played all the time, and they were just like heavy and fast, and they had kind of like that New York hardcore style of like Burn and Supertouch and like Shift and stuff like that, where it was like getting, I mean, for lack of a better word, getting smarter, you know, getting a little bit more like a little more sophisticated, and I feel like that kind of paved the way for like Dead Guy and stuff like that. So
yeah, Yeah. Now, with all the stuff that your catalog that you've put out and all your bands, do you have all your, like, do you all have the records and the CDs and stuff? Like, did you keep all that stuff?
I think so. I wouldn't be able to. I know I've got all the Off Minor stuff. I know I've got all the Saetia stuff. Yeah, no, I gotta have all of it. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't think there's anything that I ever did that I was like, never got a copy. There's shirts I don't have.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because there's a couple Off Minor shirts that I just like at the end of the tour. I was like, oh fuck, we only got extra small and extra large. So I guess, don't get this one.
And the funny thing is, we had met like a while ago because Off Minor played a show with my old band, High School Sweethearts, in Connecticut. Which, I mean, I was like, hey, what's up? It wasn't any like great conversation or anything we had, but I still have the flyer, which is right here, which is and that was at UConn with it says the assistant, but Wolves played instead of the assistant. And Brian from They and the Children had set up that show, so we actually played a show in the same which is crazy.
That was Off Minor played. I don't know. Steve could like give you the number, like 400 some odd shows. Like we really did it for a while, and it's incredible how much of it is totally gone from my brain. Like I just, especially like in the States, like all the shows we played in America just like turned into like one big basement, and just like a lot of kids with that Ian Spinonia's haircut. Like everybody looks like that. They all had tight jeans on and black shirts, and it's like, yep, that's the show. That's the one show we played.
I know. Look, the good thing is I got to record you guys, I think 5 times, which is it. At least it's out there, and I tried to take my camera as much as possible when I did see you guys. So it's funny when you mentioned the burn shirt, you would that you want. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened to it. I literally have no idea. I have no idea. Like it just disappeared one day. Like one day I was looking for it and I'm like, hey, it's gone. No idea.
That happens to me an awful lot too. And I also have the Saetia, the original Saetia. From the Fountain Collective with the this I sold a lot of things, but I never sold this thing.
Those things were such a pain in the ass to make. My God, that was a pain in the ass. That was us. We silk screened all that shit ourselves. It was a big piece of paper. Like you'd get 5 of that insert from one piece of paper.
Really?
And the screen went right on top, and the screen was all the lyrics to Post-Lapsaria, written out by Billy. And then we cut them into strips, and then we'd screen it again with the Saetia and the Mountain Collective. And we did this all at Chris Jensen from Mountain's house. And it was like, I don't even know how many weekends of like all of us being there. Like, I can't imagine doing that shit now.
I know. I mean, it still looks great though to me. I love. I don't actually remember where I got it. I might have got it at the Tin Can Full of Dreams Fest. I'm not sure, but I've had it for a long ass time. And like I said, I've sold everything. I had everything that you guys put out. Same thing with Off Minor. And I sold everything, of course, because like all of a sudden I'm like, I don't need this stuff. And I started selling it. And then I never sold the Saetia CD. And I also have, I think I don't have the cover, but I still have the Off Minor CD. So I don't have the cover anywhere. I can't find the cover anywhere, but
I sold so many records. Like I purged. I went through like 10 times where I just like, especially on tour. That was the thing too, because like when I was younger, I had no money, and I'd just be like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna take a bunch of records on tour and just sell them. I'm like, that was like how I kind of got it together. Yeah.
Same thing with shirts too. I used to be a youth large, and now I'm a large, extra large. So I had a pile of shirts like this high, full of youth larges. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this stuff? I just gave them away, or you know what I mean? It's crazy. Once I got married and had kids, I kind of ballooned up a little bit. So.
Yeah, we used to say we used to call it pulling the ripcord. You just kind of like, You deployed the raft, the flotation device. Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to keep you for too much longer. Usually at the end, I do a little rapid fire, and I'll shoot these at you right now.
Sure.
First question: favorite New England hardcore punk band of all time for you?
All right. So I've been sitting on this for a while. Actually, I don't know if this is truly my favorite, but I wanted to give a little shout out to Dive,
Oh yeah,
and
nice.
I love Dive so much. I mean, like, favorite band of all time from New England, I don't know, but they were like, it was one of those bands that like I was always hoping would come down to New York, and I don't think they actually ever did, but I just love that sound. I love that style, and like they don't really get the credit now because like a lot of bands from that scene, like Overcast, got big, and Converge obviously got big, and
Yeah,
Piebald got big, but Cave In got big. But Dive were like, they really had like an awesome, just like a real blend of sounds where it was like it was fast, but it was like post hardcore, and you kind of sang and you kind of screamed, and it was like, so like they're one of those bands that like every now and then I just have to kind of be like, have you heard Dive? You should check out some Dive. Yeah.
yeah. You're not the first one to say that though. In all the talks, Jamie from There Were Wires said Dive was his
Oh,
favorite New England.
nice.
Yeah, so uh,
Oh, fuck,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was. That's great though. Two people so far have said Dive. That's a that's awesome.
they got to
Um,
do a reunion now. So.
second question: what was the first punk hardcore show you attended?
So that would be Super Bowl of Hardcore. I think it was 91. I think it was number 5. And I found the flyer, and it was supposed to be a mob reunion, which would have been nuts. I mean, the mob reunion happened, like years later, but the mob didn't show up. But Sick of It All headline. It was the first time I ever saw Sick of It All. I was like, sold. Went out and got Blood, Sweat, and No Tears the next day.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it was nuts. The Iceman, Vision, Burn, Sheer Terror, fuck, all bands that just like kicked my ass, and I listened to I still listen to all those bands actually. So
Now, out of all those bands, like the New York bands, what's your favorite like New York band out of like all the like? I was huge on Burn. I loved Cro-Mags, but I wasn't huge on Best Wishes. I was like a big Age of Quarrel guy. I think like
yeah,
Age of Quarrel, you can't beat it. But
yeah,
after that, it's kind of eh. But Burn, I mean, is definitely up there for me.
still. I mean, the record they put out a couple of years ago, Do or Die, is like fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's funny because like to narrow it down, like the big ones for me, I love that Burn 7-inch. Side by Side 7-inch is like a classic for me. Like,
yeah.
crazy about that. And still to this day, Blood, Sweat, and No Tears, like front to back. And it's funny, right before I came here, I'm at my parents' house, and my mom's watching American Movie Classics, the channel. I
Yeah,
don't know if it's everywhere.
yeah.
And West Side Story's on, and we're sitting and we're eating, and I was like, and that's where the sample right before Injustice System is
Oh,
from.
no
It's from
kidding. Oh,
fucking
no
West Side
kidding. I didn't even
Story.
know that. Wow.
Yeah, where he's like, yeah, I know, you got it right, but I've got a badge. What have you got? That's from West Side Story.
Wow, no kidding. I never knew that.
Yeah,
That's
blew my mind.
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I love KRS One on that album too.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That blew me away when that happened. I was like, whoa, KRS One is on this. I was like, damn, this is sick.
Oh, hell yeah. No, that was an exciting. I mean, still, like, people, I don't know. It's a complicated issue, but like that record holds up. Really, everything Sick of It All did. It's funny because like you when you're in like screamo playing basements and shit, you want to find fault with all these bands that got big and blew up. I don't know, man. Sick of It All, like everything they did, like they never really lost sight of what they were about. Like they weren't trying to like they're just like that's what they do. Like that's what they sound like, and they'll do it forever. So.
Yeah, which sucks too because of COVID. They were gonna do a tour with I think it was Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, and Crown of Thorns was gonna do a big East Coast tour, and the lineup was already set, and the show was set at the Middle East in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and fucking COVID hit, and I was like, because
Yeah.
I've been trying to go see the older bands. I saw Murphy's Law a couple years ago, and I saw Sheer Terror a couple years ago, and
Oh
I
yeah.
also saw Agnostic Front. Maybe it was like a little less than 2 years ago. So I've been diving back into like seeing
Yeah.
stuff when I was a kid that I saw those bands, and I still love it. I mean, Murphy's Law was insane. I'm not. I'm not a drinker at all, but goddamn, I was soaked in beer after I saw them, and
That
it was definitely crazy.
Murphy's Law is a conversation unto itself because I mean, I'd still, if they were to play again, especially now, like post COVID, like I'd be like, fuck, I'll see a show every night of the week. But I used to see them all the time when I was a kid, and those shows were unbelievably fun because it was just like a great vibe. None of this like New York hardcore tough guy, like, fuck you up attitude. It was just like, all right, everybody, come on, we're having a fucking barbecue. Just like, sure, why not?
Yeah. Were you big on Youth of Today, or was that kind of?
So yeah, funny you should ask. I forgot who I was talking to. I was telling somebody, I was like, I was the worst straight edge kid in the world because I didn't listen to any of that shit. Like to this day, like I still don't really like. It just like it never really.
Never really resonated with
It
you. It
never
wasn't like
really. It's funny because like I came from like a crust like before I was straight edge, I was more into like crusty punk. So like when people play shit for me, I'd be like, yeah, that's all right, But I think I'd rather listen to Drop Dead. It's
yeah.
like, yeah, this is all right, but I'd rather listen to Heresy or No Security, So it's like,
Yeah.
but then the shit that I liked from straight edge was like I was crazy about Inside Out and like Beyond, like all the stuff that Vic Takara did. I got really into 108 for years. Like the first three 108 records are fucking incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I never really got into like a lot of the straight edge shit. Actually, it's funny. I was like just a shitty straight edge. Chokehold, like a lot of like the new stuff, like Unbroken, Chokehold. I don't know. Four
Did
Will
you
Fall.
did you did you get swept by the Victory wave when that happened with Earth Crisis? And I mean, like I said, I liked Earth Crisis until Destroy the Machines, and then I wasn't huge on Gomorrah Season End or whatever. Like All Out War was like good for me. I like that kind of grabbed me. I like the first Snapcase, but I don't love the other stuff. But Dead Guy and Integrity was
Yeah.
the big thing
Oh,
that
yeah.
hit me. Like those two albums, like when they first came out, what was it? Systems Overload and Fixation on a Coworker. Those things blew me away. So I liked Victory, but I didn't know if you got swept in by the rage that when it happened.
Oh yeah. No, that was undeniable. That was one of those things. Like Looking Glass Self came out. The Bloodlet, the collection of the EPs, which I never got the EPs actually. It was weird. They were always sold out. Like I feel like I ordered the EPs, like the original Bloodlet EPs, from like 5 distros, and they're like, "Nope, we don't have it. Sorry." And like, here's your money back, motherfucker. So when that CD came out, and Looking Glass Self, Systems Overload, um, the first Earth Crisis, what else was big at that time from? And yeah, and then when they got into like that, when Fixation came out too, that holds up. That
Yeah.
really holds up.
Yeah, definitely. That work ethic and that are
Oh
I
yeah.
love that. I'll listen to that shit anytime. I love that stuff. Screaming with the Dead Guy Quintet, I like it, but I like Tim Singer's like style in that band a little bit better. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Bloodlet is huge too, though. I love Bloodlet, which is crazy because they had just toured with Integrity just like 2 years ago.
That is wild. I had no idea that.
Yeah,
well, I know that Integrity keeps it up because they've kind of like really they've leaned into the metal thing. Like they always had the metal thing, but now I feel like they're just like, no, we're metal. It's just there's no ways around it. It's just like, no, it's metal now. It's just straight up metal.
Yeah. All right. Let me. Like I said, I don't mean to go
Keep
on
moving.
tangent. I don't mean to go on tangents. All-time favorite punk hardcore show you played? Could be 1 or 2 or 3 because you've been in so many bands. Like the one that kind of sticks out to you that's like made you feel the greatest after you played the show, or it was the bands that you played with at that show or whatever it may be.
So the one that I always think about is the last Yaga show. Yaga were this band from Germany that we played with a lot. Like every time we went to Europe, we played with Yaga, and the singer and the guitarist from Yaga put out our records over there in Europe. I guess technically it was Ollie who did Earth, Water, Sky. So Offminer put out the records over there on Earth, Water, Sky, I think. Anyway, I digress. When they broke up, they put on this massive, massive show, and it was crazy because it was like everybody you ever met anywhere in Europe was there. It was just like, it's like, dude, holy fuck, what are you doing here? It's like the last Yaga show. And I'm like, but you're from Italy. Like, it was like one of those shows where like kids were flying in from all over Europe, and they played for like well over an hour, like maybe even 2 hours plus. And they went through their whole catalog, and it's just like blew my mind. You know, it's like I'd seen them like dozens of times before, but like they just really gave it their all. And that band still holds up for me. And it's one of those things where just like, you know, to play the last show like that, like where they really, and like positive, you know, like when bands have like a last show and they're kind of like, you could tell they fucking hate each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, these guys were like still like in love with each other, still crazy about each other. Never really found out why. I guess they're just like ready to move on. Like they had done it for 10 years too. So they were like, fuck, it's time.
Yeah.
But like, oh God, just like everybody knew all the words to all the songs. It was just like, it was insane.
Now, was that lineup you got? Was there any other big bands on that last
So,
show that they did?
So it was funny because it was all friends bands, really. They played with this band that was not really the RoboCop Kraus, but it was this band, the RoboCop Kraus, who were like a big-ish, I don't know. It seemed for a while they were kind of biggish. They were like a pop group, basically. But they were friends. They did split with Yaga, actually. So, and this band, I think ENIAC played. So it was just like their friends. Like they weren't like trying to get like, oh, well, let's get like the big band here and the big band from there. It was just like, no. We just wanted to be like dudes we know. So, and I just felt like it just went on forever. And I was like, when is this going to end? You know, it's like everybody's like soaked in sweat.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the best of what playing this kind of music means, where it's just like you're just engulfed. And to play with a band that's like that loved in their hometown, like everything around it was like we had this whole big space. It was like a warehouse space. We're up on the roof and we're like eating and drinking, and we go, and it was during Euro Cup. So then like me and the guys from Yaga would like go around the corner and watch Euro Cup. And I was like, this is what life should be, you know, just like, like the party that is life, you know, just like everybody's, it was fantastic.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right. The next one is all-time favorite hardcore punk show you attended, like you watched and were blown away by.
Ooh, that's a tough one because, you know, there's so many. I mean, I do think about seeing. I always say that Sleepy Time Trio were one of the best bands I ever saw, like ever. Like I often say it was like Black Sabbath and Sleepy Time Trio were like kind of like neck and neck, which is sort of insane to think about. Like I thought the floor was going to drop when I saw them at ABC Rio, and that's one of the ones that I think about a lot because they were sort of like at their peak, and it was unreal. Like they really just had an incredible performance. It's like, I mean, it's been amazing that so many bands have done reunions lately because there's been a lot of things. Like I have to say, like Citizens Arrest, seeing Citizens Arrest a bunch of times. Like I don't know if this is something that like that you're. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. So like every time I see them, I'm just like, I can't believe I'm fucking seeing these guys again. But another one kind of tied back to New England. I saw Jerry's Kids a couple years ago, and that was incredible. That was just like unreal. And it was Jerry's Kids, Antidote, and Beyond.
Wow.
And it was just like, I mean, you cannot fuck with that lineup. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Yeah, Jerry's Kids. I always loved Jerry's Kids. I saw them once back in the day, but I didn't see them when they came back and did shows again. I wish I did. But yeah, that must have been amazing. How did they sound? They sound just like they never missed a step.
Fantastic. Just like 100%, like you're playing the records. Like they still have it like and I couldn't believe the drummer was that fast still. I was like, how is this? Like I didn't like audit the lineup. So I was like, is this really all the guys who recorded Is This My World? But whoever was playing drums was still fast as fuck.
Yeah.
And the singer, it's just like everything. They really did a fantastic job. Like they should keep it up because that reunion was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm jealous. Honestly, I'm jealous that I missed that. My next question: what was the last movie you watched? I'm a huge movie guy. Just I always throw it out there.
Oh yeah, that's another tough one because I actually haven't sat down and watched a movie in a while. I guess like if you want to know the last movie I watched today was at the dinner table with my folks watching West Side Story. It's just like, yeah, that's what's on. Like, I mean, I just feel like I never have the time to like sit down and really commit to it. Like every time I like see your feed, and I'm like, that's a good idea. Like I should sit down and like take the time and like commit to watching a movie. I never really get the time anymore.
Yeah, it's tough to some with me. I have 2 daughters and 2 dogs and I'm working and my wife and all that stuff. So literally like when I watch a movie, it's like I'll watch an hour and then I go to sleep and then maybe a day or 2 later. It sucks to watch movies like that, but that's the only way I can like fit them in. It's almost, movies that are 3 hours long. It takes me a week to watch the whole movie because I just, like you said, I just don't have the time to sit down for 3 hours to watch a movie.
Yeah, it's a shame because it should be like an experience. It's like where you get like I loved going to the theater. Like it's funny. I think the last movie I saw in the theaters before COVID hit was Color Out of Space.
With Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that was wild.
That was wild.
Wild film.
Yeah, that was wild. Mandy was another great one that he had just done too. I love Mandy.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard that it's.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, you gotta see it. Oh,
I heard
so good.
Bonkers. Yeah.
I'm always. Oh, sorry there. I'm always pushing a movie called Possessor from 2020. It's the movie of the year for me. It's Brandon Cronenberg. Yeah. It's if you get a chance to see that, try to see the uncut version. It was a wild ride for sure, and definitely my top pick of 2020 for movies. If you get a chance to watch that.
Yeah, I love all the Cronenberg stuff, like going back to like Shivers and stuff like that, like all like the really like
Videodrome and
like the stuff that he did that was like
Scanners.
Really tripped out, like Scanners is wild.
Yeah, Scanners is wild. It's crazy he did The Fly too, and I didn't even for a while I forgot that he had done The Fly, and then I was like, oh shit, Cronenberg did do The Fly.
It's a wild one that he did, Dead Ringers.
Oh, Dead Ringers is good.
Dead Ringers is like, and it's subtle kind of body horror. Like everybody it's synonymous with that. But like a lot of the stuff in Dead Ringer, it's a dry. I mean, it's not like a horror plot line. It's just like the drama of it, the horror of it comes from just like the fucked up personalities of these twins. Can't give the whole movie away, but definitely check it out. Yeah.
It's crazy with Brandon doing such a great job too. He's to my knowledge, he's only done 2 movies. He did a movie called Viral, I think, which is really good, which is very strange. It's like almost like people are addicted to celebrities so bad that say like a celebrity has like herpes on their mouth, they take the whatever it is, the not DNA but whatever it is, and put it into like an injection for people to get that celebrity's herpes, and it's like or whatever if they have the common cold, they draw the cold from that celebrity, and people that are obsessed with celebrities get it, and it's kind of it goes haywire, obviously. He did that movie, and then it took him 8 years, I think, to do Possessor. But Possessor is like, I wish the guy was doing movies like every year because he's really good director. So
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say no. I've heard it's like incredible. Like it really, whenever somebody's kid is doing something, like what's Stephen King's
Oh,
kid's
Joe
name?
Hill. Yeah, Joe Hill.
Yeah, whenever he does stuff, it's like, oh, it's Stephen King's kid. So, but like it sounds like Brandon Cronenberg's really coming into his own. Like it sounds like it was uh, not like I'm trying to do my dad's film.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's you said it right there, definitely. My next question: all-time favorite horror movie?
Uh, so I I kind of want to say the cliched one, which is Evil Dead 2, because it's such a classic. But Dagon, have you ever seen Dagon by Stuart Gordon?
No, no.
Dagon is one of those films that, so I saw it for the first time actually in the theater, because I don't think it actually got a release really. It had like an art house release.
Yeah.
And Stuart Gordon and the producer who did they were like a team for all the big films like Reanimator and all the Stuart Gordon films, From Beyond. Like I'm pretty sure like they were the producer director team. And they were there to talk about it. And I saw it with my friends and we're just like, this is nuts. And compared to Reanimator and From Beyond and what else did he do that was like I'm trying to think of other like big Stuart Gordon. Anyway, regardless, like it's not really campy. It's really fucked up. So
Now you piqued my interest. Since I
yeah.
haven't seen it, I try to see everything possible that I can see. Now, within this next week, I'm going to see that. I'm gonna find it and definitely watch it because I love suggestions and stuff like that. And if you're saying it's up there in your top, I got to see it now.
Yeah, Dagon is so for our audience, if you're familiar with the works of Stuart Gordon, Reanimator and From Beyond are both Lovecraft stories, like Lovecraft adaptations. And so is Dagon, but Dagon's kind of not about the story Dagon. It's really Shadow over Innsmouth, which is a totally different story, obviously. Really intense, really brutal, fantastic effects. It's pretty amazing. I don't know. I recommend checking it out because it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out. My next question: if you've been listening to hip hop, what have you been listening to for hip hop?
I am always. What have I been listening to recently? Like so one of the things that that I take advantage of Pandora for is hip hop because like you'll pop in a name and like it does a good job. Like I find that like a lot of like you can't use it for punk because you'll be like, I want to hear something that sounds like a Veil, and it's like, oh, that's garbage. It's like,
Yeah,
and if it's on Pandora, it might not necessarily be something you want to listen to if you're a punk kid anyway. But for hip hop, like I'll pop on like I'll put in like Das FX, and it's like this is everything from that scene. It's like it's perfect. Somebody that I sat down and listened to an actual record though, I listened to Mr. Lift recently. I listened to the first one, I Phantom. I think that's what it's called. Or no, it was I Phantom.
yeah.
I was walking to work. I was like just in the mood. So like all that Def Jux shit was like massive for me back in the day.
Were you did you listen to Perceptionist? That's Mr. Lift and Acrobatic together.
I never actually. I got to check that out. Yeah, no, I did not. I have not listened to that. Yes,
They did they put out an album like years and years and years ago, and then they kind of got back together and did like a little tour and put out another like bunch of new songs, and it's really good. Acrobatic is great. I don't know if you've ever heard him.
No, that's
he's from Boston. He's really really good too, and those guys flow together so good. So and it's funny is Mr. Liff. I saw him a little while ago live, and he had, I don't know if he's married or his girlfriend or whatever is Eternia, which is a girl from Canada that raps, and she's really really good too. I know they just had a child together just a little while ago, but like I'm hoping Mr. Liff and Eternia do something together
That
too,
would
because
be.
like she's really good too. And it's weird because I was at the show and I was watching Mr. Liff, and she was standing right beside me because I was on the side of the stage, and I was like, she looks like Eternia. And then on Instagram, I saw him together, and I'm like, oh no shit. I was like, I should have said what's up to her, but it's a weird thing. I'll send you a bunch of
Yeah,
links
please.
for new hip hop and stuff like that. Perceptionist, and there's a new, like, he's not that new, but a guy named Jarv from Vermont who's doing some real good like 90s style stuff, and he's a real good wordsmith, and the beats are like impeccable. I'll send you that link too, and I'll try to send you as much as I can.
Please, because like it's. I mean, this is gonna be a controversial statement that I'm sure you agree with. Is that there's a lot of shit that's passing for hip hop these days, and obviously we're too. This might not give us a lot of credibility for this, but like I remember getting a tape of Raising Hell by Run DMC when I was a kid, so it's not like I just fucking got into hip hop.
Yeah.
And all that shit, like buying bootleg tapes and shit like that of like Public Enemy and Tribe and shit like that. Like that was what I listened to when I was a kid, because that, again, it was on the radio, so it was like a good time to be into. You got into it, and it was good stuff. And DOS effects, and it's funny. I have one of my oldest friends, Mike. Like there was this thing called the video jukebox. It was called the Box, and it was a cable channel, and it played a lot of like they'd play like Organized Confusion and shit like that, and like that's how we got into like all this stuff. And it's still to this day, like Pharaoh Munch and shit like that. It's like still.
Yeah,
And
that stuff holds up so well, to me at least. I know probably younger kids, they like the new style of hip hop, which I'm not a huge fan of. But there are like a lot of artists that are doing the same style of 90s stuff. I know like the Griselda guys are doing a similar type of West Side Gun and Conway and Benny the Butcher and stuff like that. They're doing similar sounds to like the 90s style. There's still, if you dig in the crates enough, you can find new artists that are doing the same type of style, which I love. I just can't handle like the trap stuff and stuff. I mean, I appreciate the beats and stuff like that, but the lyrics are just idiotic, and like it just doesn't resonate with me. It's like it's fine for some, but it's just not my style. I'd rather stick to like the 90s style and call me old, but
I mean, totally different Instagram live about hip hop, but like, no, I mean, I think that there's like a legitimate technical skill that was involved back in the day, as far as like having a flow and having a style and having like, and these guys today, like, yeah, it's different, and I'm sure they're not intending to do it. They're not trying to do it, but as far as like the skill goes, like you can't do what like a DOS effects, even whether or not you love DOS effects. It's like those guys, like that wasn't easy. Like Jurassic 5, like this was not technically, physically difficult shit to do, and like as far as like the vocabulary and the depth and like what they're saying, and like a lot of the stuff, like as far as the story goes and like where they're coming from, like Mr. Lip, like I Phantom's like about his life and like what it was like coming out of school, and like I don't know if I mean, I don't really listen to shit like that's on the radio now, but like I don't really get that impression like that's what they're talking about, and like, and if they are, they're not expressing it the way that he did. It's like it's just,
well, there's no conscious rap to it. There's no consciousness. There's no, I mean, I feel like everything's not positive at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
you
the
can
other
talk
thing.
about guns and murder and stuff like that and still not have it come off as like negative as like the newer stuff to me is. That's just my opinion. I mean, NWA was talking about stuff like that, but they also had a consciousness about like, hey, police are fucking assholes, and
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It wasn't just like, do drugs and do this and do that. It's there was still some sort of message that still made it a positive, you know what I mean? And then exactly what
yeah,
I'm
no,
talking about.
and it's weird because I would, someone made me listen to Cardi B, And I was just kind of like, I was like, what is this about? Like, what is she talking about? Like, what is this? It's just like money, 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 money,
Yeah.
money. And I'm just like, is this what like, I'm turning into a parrot, talking about it. It's like, is this what you want your kids listening to? Like, make them listen to NWA. Like, at least NWA's got something to say.
Yeah.
Make them listen to Burn Hollywood Burn. Like, at least that's like, there's like something going on there. Like, they have something to talk about and they express it, like it's expressed in a way. It's not like there's like a repetition to it, which is funny because like someone else framed it in a way of like, yeah, but it's like punk rock, right? It's like the Ramones. It's repetitive. It's the same shit over and over again. I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
I guess.
So my final question is: are you sick of hearing people ask you, "Will there ever be a Saetia reunion?" Are you like completely sick of hearing that question?
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand. It's I mean, where to start? Well, the reunion thing is so. I mean, everybody's doing a reunion now. It's like there's no time and space. Like when I saw Antidote open up for Jerry's Kids, I was like, it's like the shit that they played it at A7 in like 1980,
Yeah.
like whatever. It's like, and they were fantastic. And it's like, well, shit. It's like if you go around like bugging people enough. And also, like I've had like the fantastic luck to see like some of my favorite bands do reunions, and I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm not gonna knock it. Like every time I see Citizens Arrest, I'm like, seeing fucking Citizens Arrest. Like I love these guys. When I
Yeah.
saw who else was like another one that I was like, I can't believe I actually saw these guys.
I mean, did you catch Jerome's Dream when they got back together again?
Yeah, but I saw those guys all the time back then.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like,
I know. I'm just saying, like they got
okay.
back together. It's in the same like genre. You know what I mean?
It's like, yeah, I'll see you guys again the next time you get back together. But I don't know if you're familiar with this band Merrill. Merrill was like a huge band for me.
I know who Merrill is. Yeah.
And when Merrill did their reunion, I was like, I can't believe I'm seeing fucking Merrill. Like I missed them by like a week. Like I think I got the record and they broke up the next week. So, and Rorschach was another one. Like when Rorschach got back together, I was like, so reunions, like you can't knock it because like if these guys want to do it and they, so it's a thing. Like, and
I mean, is it in the books for you? Like maybe, or is it like not at all?
I feel like I'm gonna make trouble for people. It's always in the books. It's like it's funny because like more so than 5 years ago, like I talked to those guys. Like I'll talk to Billy like once or twice a month, and I'll, especially with Instagram, like I send messages up and back with Adam. Like Adam and I saw each other. We all had lunch last summer, or I guess 2 summers now. Shit. I was seeing Colin a lot for a while because we would go to watch soccer together, but he's got a family, so, and especially with COVID.
Yeah.
So to to have a relationship with those guys again, it's like, I mean, I guess that's the beginning of anything happening, but
yeah,
who knows? I mean, everybody's busy, everybody but me's got a family, so, and that makes things tough, because
what would happen more, an off-minor reunion or a Saetia reunion?
Oh God, that's like, is it more likely that I'm gonna fall down a hole in the street to the sewer or get hit by a car? It's like they both could happen, but who knows? It's unquantifiably small, both of them. It's like, I feel like maybe even less so for off-minor because we just did so much that there's like no regrets. It's like we played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows, like probably like 400, 500 shows, in countries and continents, and like, so, and Steve keeps playing music. So I think that one of the things that keeps you from doing a reunion in a way is that if you're contemporary, if you're actually still active. So like, for me, like I'm not dying to do a reunion because I don't have any glory that I'm trying to recapture. Like I keep doing this shit. Like I've never stopped doing bands. So
yeah.
And I know that Adam keeps playing, but like interests change. And again, of course, if you have like different priorities, work and family or stuff like that, like I got nothing but punk. So
Now,
Work and fun.
has anybody approached you about doing a off minor discography? I know, like,
Yes.
you guys have so much stuff that it would be nice to be, all together.
I don't want to tell tales, but I think Zegma Beach, Dave, if you're watching, I think it's still in the works or still like a hypothetical. I mean, I've always said like if we want to repress it and like do something like a new thing,
Hmm.
it's a lot. I mean, it would be like
Yeah,
three,
there's a lot
four
of music.
LPs, so
Yeah.
maybe even more. So I'd be more than happy to put some money into it if like there was interest. I'm tired of putting money into records that nobody wants. So
I know Seth from Repeater Records is doing stuff like that. He just put the U and I
yeah.
too, and now he's doing Reversal Man, which he just announced like a week or two ago, which is the fucking awesome. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, that's awesome to hear. I hope that happens because I'd love to have something all together from Off Minor.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, like just to get the whole thing in a chunk that you can download, or like a chunk that you can get on Bandcamp, and like cause
Now
it's out there.
you guys aren't on Spotify at all, right? I use Spotify all the time, but I don't think Off Minor's on Spotify, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we're not. No, we're definitely not. I think that it's not. It just never really came up. It's
Yeah.
like it's not to put words in his mouth. I feel like I've said that 1,000 times, but Steve I'm pretty sure Steve wants to remaster and remix and get all the stuff cleaned up a bit, because the thing with Off Minor is we basically recorded in his basement. Like every record was basically recorded in his basement.
Yeah.
So he's in the process, I think, of sort of cleaning them up a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. I hope that Zegama Beach puts that out. That would be amazing. That like I said, I'm dying to hear everything all at once. I don't want to like keep searching around for like the separate things that you guys did. It's especially the 7 inches are tough to find now because I don't have a record player, and like YouTube doesn't usually have everything. So it would be great to just have one body of Off Minor stuff for sure.
Yeah, I would love to honestly get it all, like especially just to have it, because Bandcamp you can just like host it for free, I think, which for what it's worth, like I don't care about the money, so it's
Yeah. All right. Well, it's almost. I almost had you on here for 2 hours.
oh shit,
Jamie,
sorry.
I really appreciate it. Didn't feel like it. I looked over. I'm like, holy shit, we've been on for like 2 hours. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to do this.
No, thank you. This has been great.
And like I said, reach out anytime. Like if Lytic and COVID goes away and you guys need to show up in New Hampshire, hit me up. I used to set up shows all the time up in New Hampshire. I'll do my damn best to hook you guys up, or you know what
Oh
I
yeah,
mean.
definitely.
And I'll send you some links for some hip hop stuff. And I want you to stay safe. I know you're in the medical field, not the crazy part of it, but
Yeah.
stay safe, be positive, and man, like keep in touch with me, and I'll keep shooting you messages. And if I find anything that Off Minor lost footage, I'll definitely put it up there.
Yeah, thanks. No, I'm gonna actually. It just occurred to me. I don't even know why I didn't say anything with the Off Minor stuff. I actually have a whole set of us playing in Tokyo. I didn't mean to put on the internet, and maybe tonight's the night. Like I'll just be like, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna dump it, put it up there.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much, and I
Thank
hope you
you.
have a great night. And I'll talk to you soon, Jamie.
All right, good seeing you, man.
All right,
Take
thanks,
care.
man. Take care.
Okay, bye.